Good Friday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading. We are in Psalm 100 today, looking at this last psalm in this series of psalms, focusing on Yahweh as King, going back to Psalm 93. Most of these psalms have come without superscriptions, although there's a little bit here. There have been a couple here and there. Going back to Psalm 93, I think only two of our psalms have had superscriptions attached to them. Yes, Psalm 98 and Psalm 100. But they have, again, focused on this idea of Yahweh as King, seems to be building on the issue that was presented towards the end of Psalm 89, which was the last psalm of the third book of the Psalter. Here in the fourth book, it kind of picks up on that theme, it seems, whenever the organization of the Psalter was taking place. And they have emphasized the fact that Yahweh is King. And to finish up this section then, where we focus on these kingly psalms, we're going to see some characteristics of Yahweh given in verse number 5, and then the preceding 4 verses, short psalm today, only 5 verses. The 4 verses between that will give 4 responses that we ought to give for who God is and these characteristics that he possesses. So let me get the text on the screen for us. We'll read along together here in Psalm 100. It's been given the title in my Bible, Be Thankful. And we are told that it is a psalm of thanksgiving. Psalm 100 in verse number 1. Let the whole earth shout triumphantly to Yahweh. Serve Yahweh with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Acknowledge that Yahweh is God. He made us, and we are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and bless his name. For Yahweh is good, and his faithful love endures forever, his faithfulness through all generations. Psalm number 100. Again, I want to focus on the last verse first. For Yahweh is good, his faithful love endures forever, and his faithfulness through all generations. This idea that Yahweh's faithful love, that his covenant love, that his covenant loyalty that he has for his people endures forever. This is something that the Psalms focus on a great deal. In fact, it's repeated in some Psalms to follow in Psalm 106, 107, 118, 136. And this idea of Yahweh's faithful love enduring forever was a foundation of praise that was often given to Yahweh in various settings. For example, in 1 Chronicles 16 and verse 34, whenever the ark is being moved in the chronicle, and the chroniclers given his detail of that event. Remember, we have a lot of events that are duplicated between the kings and the chronicler, or the chronicles, I should say, written by the chronicler, whoever that might be. In his version of that event, or his detailing of that event, he says this very thing in 1 Chronicles 16 and verse 34. 1 Chronicles 16 and verse number 34. Give thanks to Yahweh, for he is good. His faithful love endures forever. Same thing in 2 Chronicles 5:13 and 2 Chronicles 7 verses 1 through 3, when the temple is being dedicated. Same thing is said even in the midst of battle in 2 Chronicles 20 and verse 21. And the same thing is said as well once the temple foundations have been laid once again after the people have returned from captivity in Ezra chapter 3 and verse number 11. All of these texts, and again, very different circumstances, but they all recognize this all-important reality that Yahweh is good and his faithful love endures forever, his faithfulness through all generations. And what wonderful qualities to be said of anyone, that they're good, that their love endures, that their faithfulness endures. But it is only about Yahweh himself that we can say these things exist perfectly. He is the standard of goodness. His faithful love never fails, and his faithfulness and righteousness endures through all generations. There is no failing in God whatsoever. There is no weakness. There is no shortcoming. There is no struggle. He is perfect in these attributes. So for that, we have within the previous 4 verses, seven ways that we can respond and should respond to these good qualities of Yahweh. 7 imperatives. Number 1, that we should shout triumphantly to God. The idea here is probably fanfare, that we just speak of God's goodness, that we speak of his glories, that we speak of his faithful love. In fact, I would say probably this psalm is an example of how someone could shout triumphantly to Yahweh. Number two, serve Yahweh with gladness. Serve Yahweh with gladness. So obey him. Give him your lives as sacrifice. Everything that you have, which was given by you from him to begin with, you need to turn around and give that back to Yahweh. Number three, come before him with joyful songs. So come and humble yourself before him in singing. Recognize again how great he is and how blessed we are to be his people. Number three, acknowledge that Yahweh is God. Recognize his uniqueness, that Yahweh alone is the one true living God, the one who is sovereign over all things, the one who is the source and the root of everything else that exists. He alone is independent in his existence. He does not need anything else to exist. He does not need anything. He did not need anything else to come into existence, and he does not need anything else to move forward in his existence. Acknowledge, recognize, know that he is Yahweh. And in regard to his independence, we recognize our dependence, that he made us, that we are his, we belong to him, that we are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Again, he is Yahweh. He is exalted. We recognize that and we acknowledge this as true. So therefore, in verse number 4, the imperative number 5 is to enter his gates with thanksgiving, and his courts with praise. Seek him, come before him in presence, come before him offering ourselves to him, and give him thanksgiving, give him praise. Very closely in line with that, verse number 6, give thanks to him and bless his name. Give thanks to him and bless his name. Notice all of these things are focused on Yahweh, because we recognize who Yahweh is, that he is good, that his faithful love endures forever, that his faithfulness is never failing. Because that, we come to him to shout. We come to him to serve. We come to him with joyful songs. We come to him to acknowledge how great he is and how dependent we are upon him. We come to him with thanksgiving and praise. We come to him giving thanks. We come to him blessing his name. This psalm of praise, this psalm of thanksgiving contains truths that have spanned generations and generations, because these characteristics and attributes of God span generations and generations, and they never fail. They never change. We might know somebody who we would define as a good person. Well, it's very possible that they could at some point make decisions that make them no longer a good person. But that's not true about Yahweh. This is simply who he is. He is good. He is full of faithful love. He is perfect in his faithfulness. And for that, we come before him with these things: to shout, to serve, to acknowledge, to give thanks, to give praise, to bless his name. We come before him with these things as our sacrifice before him, because he alone is worthy. We are to praise his name and showing our thankfulness for allowing him, or for him allowing us, to be his people and to be the sheep of his pasture, this wonderful, good, faithful, loving shepherd. If you have any questions or comments about this psalm, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And I appreciate you taking some time reading along with me on this Friday. I hope that you'll be back with me on Monday as we read together from Psalm 101. We're getting back into some Davidic psalms. This psalm is described as simply as a psalm of David. Look forward to seeing you right on Sunday as well. We'll be continuing in our Mark study this upcoming Sunday. Continue to look at the last week of Jesus's life. Hope that'll be a good study, encouraging to each and every one of us. And if you see Katie or talk to Katie, you need to congratulate her today for putting up with me for 11 years. Today is our anniversary, and very thankful for her and all the ways that obviously she's been a blessing in my life, and I know she's a blessing in your life as well. So congratulate her. Make sure to give her some praise for putting up with me for these past 11 years. Thanks so much for tuning in again today. Have a great rest of your Friday. See you on Sunday for our Bible study and worship, and see you on Monday as we keep reading through the Psalter. Take care, and God bless.